In the last episode, I spoke about the day I left China for the first time. In 1991 Christmas Day, I arrived in Missoula, Montana, a small, quiet, freezing town. 2 days later, in the morning, without time to recover from jet lag, I was picked up by the owner of a Chinese restaurant. My husband had arranged it in advance. I began working immediately. There was no transition period. But the preparation for survival had begun long before I arrived. When my visa was approved, my 1-year-old child's visa was denied. I had to come alone. At that time, I was not thinking about career fulfillment or personal ambition. I was thinking about survival. How would I support myself? How would I one day support my child? Within the limits of my understanding back then, Chinese restaurants were the most realistic path for immigrants like us. I loved cooking. I was good at it. So I made a practical decision. I enrolled in a professional culinary training program. When my child was 6 months old, I began attending classes during the day. At night, I returned home to care for the baby. I continued until the day I left China. At the time, I had no idea this decision would shape my future. I only knew one thing. When I landed in America, I did not want to arrive empty-handed. Years later, when I look back, I feel both respect and tenderness toward that younger version of myself. I admire her courage. Facing uncertainty, she did not complain. She did not wait. She prepared. She acted. It was instinctive survival wisdom. But I also see her limitations. If I had chosen to improve my English first, to enter the knowledge system of the West, my life path might have been very different. At that time, I did not understand the power of knowledge capital. I only understood that practical skills could earn food. Choice shapes destiny. Still, I no longer judge her. Because that was the first time I made a decision for myself. Not for my parents, not for marriage, but for survival. Learning to cook was not a grand achievement, but it was my first act of independence. The first time I took responsibility for my own future. When I walked into that restaurant kitchen for the first time, I saw women my age, some older. Later I learned that most of them were like me. Their husbands were international students at the university. The wives worked to support the household. This was common among Chinese immigrant families at the time. Because immigration status depended on one family member remaining enrolled in school. If that status ended, we had to return to China. Unless an employer was willing to sponsor work authorization. In the restaurant, young single students worked as servers. Their English was stronger. Tips were their primary income. Base wages were extremely low, sometimes below legal minimum standards. But everyone accepted it, because status mattered more than fairness. My first day left my entire body aching. But physical exhaustion was not the deepest shock. Efficiency was. In that kitchen, time had a sound. Every minute connected to cost, to profit, to table turnover. There was no space for casual conversation, no tolerance for slowness. A Chinese student from Shanghai, he spoke quietly.
I feel like I've already washed my grandson's dishes.
His words stayed with me. I knew he wasn't talking about dishes. Speed was value. That was the first time I understood capitalism. Not from textbooks, but between flames and steam. In China's work units, income was not directly tied to efficiency. In America, every second carried a price. This was not about which system was better. It was about a shift in logic, from institutional protection to market exchange. From collective structure to individual responsibility. Immigration is not simply crossing borders, it is entering a different survival equation. You are no longer assigned a place, you must earn one. That day, in the heat of the kitchen, I understood something clearly. Independence is not a slogan, it is a cost. In the next episode, I will speak about what happens when survival is no longer enough, and a woman must redefine who she is in a foreign land.